are reading. If it weren't for their damned opposable thumbs, the ability to read would be the only thing that separates us from the apes.
But for now anyway, it's a talent that's uniquely human. Although studies show that as a society we've changed. Young people aren't reading nearly as much as they used to. Personally, I'm not buying it. I see young people reading more than ever.
So I decided to find out for myself.
The last thing I read was a text message.
Last thing I read was actually an email from my boss saying that if I don't come into work tomorrow, I'll be fired.
The last thing I read was probably a text message about like 5 minutes ago.
I read about between 20 to 70 text messages a day.
Myth busted. I arranged to meet with literary professor Gert Coleman to share my findings. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. Let's talk about reading. Young people, studies show, aren't reading nearly as much as they used to. I'm not buying it.
No, the research does show young people, students today are reading about 17% less than they used to, up to about 10 or 15 years ago.
I'm a young person and I consider myself a very avid reader. I mean, just today I read 25 emails, 5 blogs, 10 text messages, 12 Facebook profiles. In my book, reading is reading.
Right. Well, reading emails and reading text messages isn't quite the same as reading textbooks and newspapers and journals, for example.
Right. Emails aren't heavy and don't require cutting down trees. Go green.
That's right. But textbooks are full of valuable information, often in great detail. What I'm talking about is a different kind of reading.
Oh, like reading lips?
No.
Oh, you mean like Braille?
Nope.
Oh, you mean like telepathy, reading minds?
Absolutely not, no. Reading short things, it's like eating snacks. You're not really getting all the nutrition out of it. It's giving you enough energy to move on to whatever you're doing next, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's good for your brain. So you have to learn how to read as a process and figure out how much time it's going to take you to read something, how much efforts it's going to take you to read something, to be able to stay focused for more than, say, 5 or 10 minutes, and moving on to the next thing. That's partly what you're doing with your textbooks.
But I'm not the fastest reader in the world, so when I read my textbooks, I like to skim. And I read over the text and just highlight things that sound important. That's good enough, right?
If you pick and choose, that may not be what the professor asks you on the test, and that may not be the basis of what the course is about. You also have to realize that sometimes slow reading is good reading. The more difficult the textbook, the more difficult the subject, the less you know about it, the slower you have to go. When you read a menu, you know what you want generally. You only read the pieces that you're really interested in. There you're reading about 900 words a minute. When you're reading textbook, you're reading about maybe 200 words a minute because you are trying to understand all the difficult levels. So you have to kind of move it up and down according to what you're reading.
Oh, now I get it. Maybe I am an avid reader, but just not the kind of reading I need to be able to be successful in college. I mean, reading text messages and blogs is technically reading, but the kind of reading that'll earn me a degree requires much more thought, understanding, and focus. The key is to understand the fundamental difference between the two.